let's talk about one of our favorite commodities. Well, your favorite if you do like chocolate. World cocoa prices have recovered a bit after clocking losses of more than 20% earlier in the week, according to dealers. Now, recent volatility in cocoa prices has made it a lot more expensive to maintain positions in cocoa futures because, in part, margin requirements have gone up by quite a bit. Futures slid by as much as 13% in trading in New York on Tuesday after tumbling the previous day, by the most in data going back to 1960. Now, that retreat does mark quite the turnaround from earlier in the month when prices soared to record levels close to $11,400 a ton. And in part, we're getting there because of a historic supply crunch that has raised the cost of making chocolate. At the same time, harvests in West Africa, the main producers, Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire specifically, have been battered by a combination of crop disease and poor weather. And that's putting the world on track for a third straight annual supply deficit. Both Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana have been forced to roll forward supply contracts, but the amount that is being paid to farmers is well below what suppliers are having to pay for that commodity in global markets. So let's try and make sense of what exactly is going on in global cocoa markets. Jonathan Offei-Ansah is the founder and publisher of the Africa Briefing magazine. He's joining us now live from London. Jonathan, thank you very much for your time this evening. So let's start with what's happening in global markets here, right? Barely a week ago, if I went in there and I wanted a ton of cocoa, I'd have to pay about $11,400. Prices are now under $9,000 a ton in barely 2 days. What has triggered this change?
Well, like you said in your report, the price fall has been triggered mainly by the significant increase in the margin requirements. And these margin requirements are the amount of money traders need to keep in their accounts to cover potential losses. And when these requirements went up, it became more expensive for the traders to keep their positions in cocoa futures. And as a result, many traders chose to sell off their cocoa holdings quickly to avoid further losses.
There was a fair bit of speculative trading activity in the market, wasn't there? In the run up to this, insane jump that we saw to $11,400 a ton. Because if you roll back the clock to around 2022, a ton of cocoa would have cost you and I $2,500.
Yeah. I mean, the speculation, the speculative activities of the market also hasn't helped, to break down, the prices, the price of the cocoa.
So adverse weather and pests have been the two big stories that we keep hearing about, right? For the rally that we saw in 2023 and now in 2024 as well. But can you give us a sense of what the supply side situation is like at the moment? We're hearing reports that the market will be in deficit for quite a while to come, but when can supplies rebound, for lack of a better word?
Well, it's hard to tell when supplies will can be rebound because look, there are so many factors affecting the supply side currently. Look, let me take Ghana for example. That's where I come from. There's a lot of illegal artisanal mining going on in the country, especially in the cocoa growing areas, and most farmers are losing their cocoa farms to the artisanal mining activity. Even some have lose their farms through the force of arms. I mean, there's one one example where a cocoa farmer was offered a price for her farm, she declined, and a month later, armed groups went there and forcibly seized the land. And that's number one. And again, the artisanal mining is also, the chemicals used, the toxic chemicals like mercury and others used, is actually destroying the water bodies and therefore affecting the cocoa trees. So until, some of these, and again, you add to that the adverse weather conditions and again, disease trees and so on and so forth. So you add cumulatively, all these affect the cocoa production. So in the very foreseeable future, I don't see a rebound, in cocoa production.
What sort of minerals are these artisanal miners after? Is it gold or is it something else?
Well, the artisanal miners, they mine mainly gold, right? And they use toxic materials like mercury, right, and other harmful chemicals. that actually destroy on the water bodies. I mean, it is a very hot issue in Ghana currently, where look about 2/3, without being hyperbolic, about 2/3 of the country's water bodies have been contaminated by these toxic chemicals like mercury and others.
And that actually leads me to my last question to you, because looking at what has happened with cocoa prices, $2,500 a ton on average in 2022, over $10,000 a ton in the first quarter of this year. That's essentially a fourfold increase in prices, but that's not translating into an increase of a similar magnitude to what farmers are being paid in Ghana and in Cote d'Ivoire, which produce roughly 65% of cocoa beans on the planet. Why is that? What are the structural issues that explain that?
Yeah, number one, look, cocoa farmers often sell their produce to middlemen or cooperatives, at prices below the global market rates. And these intermediaries then sell the cocoa to exporters or manufacturers, pocketing a portion of the profits along the way. Additionally, the government regulations or policies in cocoa producing countries like Ghana may restrict the prices that farmers can receive for their crops, further limiting their earnings. Okay, and furthermore, the costs associated with cocoa production, such as labor, inputs, and infrastructure, have also increased over time. As a result, the cocoa prices have actually have set globally, but the benefits of this price doesn't necessarily fully trickle down to the farmers at the bottom of the supply chain.
Is it something that the cocoa boards in both countries definitely need to change? Because they're in a situation here where they essentially set the price for buying up essentially all the cocoa supply in the country well in advance. But yes, that might be useful if you're essentially on the supply side. But if you're a farmer and you're looking at all these paper gains that you're essentially losing out on, as is the case right now, I mean, at some point that's really got to change if you're going to incentivize farmers to change how they farm.
Yes, I mean, over the years, so again, I'll take Ghana as an example. That's where I come from. But I mean, the government, often increase, the producer prices to the cocoa farmers. But then those increases are not in line with, let's say, inflation, labor costs, like I mentioned earlier, and so on and so forth. So that leads to, look, some of these farmers have even abandoning their farms or abandoning cocoa farming to farm other cash crops. So look, it's a losing game that most of these producing countries are playing, because the more they try to increase, the farm gate prices, the more the cost increase, and so many other factors also increase. So the cocoa farmer is perennially always underpaid compared to the global prices.